The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to check out our affiliate sponsor, One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the avid podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services. Okay, welcome to another great episode of the podcast. We have an interesting conversation with my friend Sharee out in Seattle, the Emerald City. We'll bring her on in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit about virtual events. That's her business. She's going to tell us her story. And I think virtual events is something that we really haven't talked about on the show before. And I think it's really valuable to a lot of people in growing their businesses. We'll talk about that. We'll bring Sharee on in a minute. And if you are listening on your favorite directory, be sure to leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you're listening, watching us on YouTube, subscribe, hit the like button so we can keep bringing you the kind of content that we are bringing you today. So let's get on with the show.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests, where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. All right, Sharee. So thanks for your patience. This way I don't have to do any video editing later on, so it's all played as we do it. You can hear me clearly?
I can.
Okay, good. But I'm excited to have you on because I know you're out in Seattle. The funny thing is it usually rains there and it's raining in New Jersey, but you know, it is what it is. And to talk about virtual events and the business that you've kind of built around, well, you've built around helping people run virtual events. But why don't we go into your background a little bit, your entrepreneurial background and kind of what got you to where you are. And then maybe in the second half, we can talk about tips and tricks and without giving away the farm to everybody, but to get them interested in summits and maybe even use your services. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me. Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
All right. So let's hear about your background.
Oh, so wide open, such a wide open question. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me here. My name is Sharee Collier, and yeah, I'm all about virtual events at this point in life, but I'm actually more about just entrepreneurship, diversifying my income, and really just finding creative ways to make money online. And this all kind of stems from my mother was an entrepreneur. So I just kind of watched her as I was growing up. You know, she had like this internal like fire, this internal drive. You know, she was kind of the hustler in the family. Like she always had an idea of something that she would be working on to produce income, you know, put food on the table, generate.
And it was harder then, right? I mean, it was harder in those days.
Yeah.
Online virtual systems. We could just plug in Amazon and open up a store.
I
Very
know, it's so
yeah,
crazy. I look back on like what I see as her start in entrepreneurship, and I like remember that day when we got that little CD in the mail that was like America Online.
yeah. I was just
Now
talking about that in another show, right?
and now everyone's online, but back then she
Yeah.
wasn't, she had to do a lot of it just in person. I remember going to so many meetings with her. I started off as her assistant and I would come and like take notes. That was like my job. And it was like a gift and a curse, right? Gift, you get to work for your family business, your mother who's out here creating something from nothing. You get to see this woman who has raised you, like build up this business, and it was very
Yeah.
inspirational. But it was also quite boring to sit there and take notes in these in these meetings that I didn't really
Right.
have much, interest around it, or at least I thought I did it because she was
Yeah.
all about marketing. And I was like,
Right. Yeah.
it's
You're
not
like, what
really,
do we need that for? How
it's
old were
not
you?
really my thing. This was I worked for her like fresh out of high school, so from like 17 to like 20 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, this is stupid, mom. What am I doing this
I
for?
know, you just want like a cool job at like a hair salon or
Right.
a cool
Yeah.
mall job. And here I
Right.
was working for my mom's marketing company, but she was building it and she needed like a team of people she could trust because it was growing and she had all these clients and I would spend hours sitting in her home office and that grew over time to what that looked like. But in the beginning, it was me and her in like the smallest bedroom of her
Right.
house. And
And what
it
did
would
you do?
just
Was she right? She was helping other businesses market? Is that what it was, like a
Yeah,
marketing
like
agency almost?
yeah, she would come up with their whole, integrated marketing campaign and she would run that for them. She would create websites and create brochures and then we got into a little bit of the event planning and I just loved it and I would like take that piece on for her, take that off of her plate. Um so excuse me, once we got into a little bit of that, it definitely piqued my interest a little bit more into like, what's my role here?
Right. Like when you
But
start seeing it work for people, is that what
yeah,
kind of
because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so creative. This is so crazy that she" excuse
okay,
me.
you need a drink? That's live TV for you. Hey, hold on, you muted.
Hopefully you can edit all this out, but if
Yeah,
not, it's okay, guys.
yeah, it's all right.
Uh,
It's live TV. We like that. It's all we're doing
so
this as we go.
I just thought it was incredible that like she came up with this idea to create her own marketing company and then she was actually making it happen and she had like real people. And at first, I gotta be honest, and I get this now from like other people in life and in my family or whatever where they're like they call it like your little business or
Right,
she does a little bit of this or something like that. So we definitely, because me and my sisters would downplay what she was doing because we didn't
right.
understand it.
Yeah,
And looking back on that, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did we do that? That was so horrible because she was so amazing and is still amazing and just inspired me to go down that same path. Like I literally went down the same path of creating a business that I just kind of pulled out of the air from nothing.
yeah, yeah. No, it's like she's changing your life and you didn't know it at the time, nor could you appreciate it, right? I mean, that's what's amazing. My dad was like that. He was in sales. He was always showing me stuff, dropping things on my desk to read. But in those days, see, I'm older than you. So in those days, when I had a couple of businesses, I would do things locally, like make fishing rods or string people's tennis rackets and stuff. But I couldn't do it online. I couldn't like advertise
Yeah.
because it was just local. I would put up little signs on the little, the telephone poles and stuff like that, and people would call me, and then they drop the racket off. But it was different. But when you see your parents do it, it becomes like, oh, I can do that, as
Yeah.
opposed to us hearing about it, reading about it in a newspaper, and you're like, I can't do that, you
Yeah.
know.
It's different when you grow up around it. Because I've had conversations with people and they say, I never like thought I would be an entrepreneur or I didn't know anything about, starting my own
Right.
business. And that
Yeah.
was never the case for me.
Right. And there's so many people now that have their own businesses. And some of them, you're right, they're side hustles. They have a job and they're doing these things on
Hmm.
the side. Some of them are really, either they lost their job or they were so dissatisfied, they're like, forget this. And
Hmm.
they're going at it. So do you remember what the first business was that you started?
Oh, it was a lemonade stand, definitely. So this was early on, right? This was
Yeah.
before her marketing company. Um, it was a lemonade stand with my sister and like a few friends in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I remember I had like $20 and I felt like super rich. And I was like, oh my gosh, we should start a lemonade stand. I have this $20. Let's go buy, some sugar and some
Right. All the
lemons
supplies.
and like, the supplies. So I went with my mom, we bought those supplies, we set up this table, and then we ended up making, a good amount of money. We made more than the $20 that I had just spent.
Profit. There you go.
Yes, it was so amazing. And then everyone was like, "Oh my gosh," maybe it was like $100. They were like, "Wow, we get to split this, 5 ways." And I was like, "Hold on, guys, I got to get my
I get
20
my
back
money
here."
back first.
you know.
Exactly.
So that was like my first like move as like an entrepreneur or a business owner with the idea. And I'm like, wait a second, I have to get my money back first,
Yeah,
and then we can split up the profit.
right. Exactly. Split up profits. Don't give them your money first, right? Now you
Yeah,
go
but
after that cash flow.
after that, I mean, I've had so many business ideas and started so many different things. It's honestly hard to keep track. The other day, someone just reminded me of something that I did like early on. And I was like, oh my God, I did. I was like, I totally forgot about that because for me, it wasn't something that was like sustainable or something that I saw long term. And
Right.
I had like two hiccups with it. And then I was like, oh, I'm done. Like, this is not for me. Like,
Right.
oh, I can't. But
So
yeah,
what
I
were the
went
more
on.
successful ones that you remember?
Okay. So after working with my mom, I definitely started an event planning like business. Like I basically like sprouted out from her, but then she just fed me all the clients. But I didn't have to say that I worked for her. It was
Right.
my business. And, I
What kind
got
of
to make,
events? Like company events?
yeah,
Yeah.
corporate events.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
and which was really cool because it, it was like, it was like your mom helping you get set up, which is what I hope to do for all of my children. Like
Right.
you don't necessarily have to start from scratch. You don't have to figure out all these things. She's going to do this for you. And
Right. She
she's
spent her
kind of
whole life learning it. Don't
right.
start.
And she's funneling me these clients. So I thought that was pretty cool. Then one of the most successful up until now was, or up until okay, two. So when we were in Florida, I
Uh-huh.
decided I got really into like natural products and stuff. So I started creating these natural like body scrubs
Mm-hmm.
that my husband and I would go around and sell them at different farmers markets and
Yeah.
trade shows and like just markets because there's tons of those in Florida.
Right.
It's just like the perfect weather, the perfect environment. And
It's like
that
all year
was,
round. Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was amazing. Like I just remember like,
Those like body
setting up
scrubs like
my
in a
booth.
jar, like, and they had different ingredients and you use them in the shower.
Yes.
Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Essential oils, all that good
Yeah.
stuff. So we had like, a line of these and
Right.
they were just so popular. I don't know if it was because, you scrub up real good and then, it just makes your legs and your arms feel wonderful when people are getting like beach ready, or pool ready, since we're all in Florida. But we did that so well. And that actually covered our expenses. And we were like, holy shnikes, like we are actually just running a business and like we're not working for other people. And it's paying for us and 4 kids to live, by the beach in Florida. It was really cool. That was really, really cool.
Nice, nice, nice. And I think some of the natural products stuff you can do, like you don't need like a chemist to do it.
No,
Crazy co-packers and stuff like that. Yeah.
right.
Started
So we
small.
just concentrated on things that we used that were, easier to make.
Yeah.
And we had like body butters that were whipped. I
Right.
mean, it was pretty cool, but I just loved it. You got to design your whole little booth and people would come and it was called skin smoothies.
No.
And they would come to our booth and we had regular customers and we would go to, different locations. It was just the cutest little
Now,
thing.
what happened with that business?
What happened with that business? This is a good
Yeah.
question. Okay, so we decided, well, we got too big for our britches. This is what happened. We took the business that was super mobile and
Okay.
then we opened like a little boutique that was attached to like this natural holistic like healing center. because they had an opening and they were like, oh my gosh, we're looking for like a retail establishment to occupy this space at our center. So we did that. And then neither one of us wanted to sit there all day and keep those doors open, but we could not afford to hire someone. And I was like, oh, why did we do this? Like, brick and mortar is not our
No.
space. We
Right.
don't want to do this. Like, we should have just, kept with the pop-up shops and, selling it online. So that's kind of what happened to that. But we tried to transition, right? Because we were like at this place, and this kind of goes into the next part of the story, but we were at this place where we were like just kind of looking for something different. We
Yeah.
were like doing the same old itself. And that's when we moved to Florida and started this business of, doing these products. We were like sitting around one day in like a suburban neighborhood in Georgia, and we were like so young. And all our neighbors were like much older than us. Like everyone had their stuff together. Like we were like this super young family. And we were just like, why are we doing this? This is so boring. Like, what else are we supposed to be doing right now? Like, what else is there?
Right.
And we came up with like 3 big adventures. So we were like, okay, what would be like something really cool, like cool ways to live? So we were like, okay, we've never lived like right by the beach. So we could definitely find like a little beach house to rent to where like the backyard is the beach. And that would be super cool. Then we were like, oh, it would also be cool to live on the water. So if we could learn to sail and, live on a sailboat, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And then third, we were like, or, we could also just buy an RV and travel around,
Yeah.
and
I've always
we could
wanted
do
to
that.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. So we started with the simplest of all 3, which was just buying or just renting the place by the beach, which we
Yeah.
loved, and we did that. And then we came to Georgia and we tried this little pop-up shop, and we are like, we don't like this. And we decided, like, just off of those 2 things, like living by the beach, we realized wasn't really for us. Once the first tropical storm came through,
Yeah. You're like, oops.
everything flooded. It
Ugh.
was horrible. And we were like, oh, this isn't for us. And that actually led into that establishment in Florida, right? Or that brick and mortar place. And we're
Mhm.
like, I think, if we don't like living by the water, and also there was an incident where the kids were swimming with sharks, and I was like, oh no, this isn't
Swimming
for
with
us.
sharks.
Like little sharks that people were like, oh, that's okay.
They don't
Like,
really bother you. They're
those
cute.
don't bother you. And I was like, absolutely not. It's so concerning.
That is so funny.
So we realized we're not really water people. So the sailboat
Right.
was out. No need to learn how to sail because we
Right.
won't be, purchasing a sailboat or anything like that. So we said we should do the RV. So we bought an RV and we renovated it. And to say we renovated it is it's just comical because now people really renovate RVs.
Oh yeah,
They
you
don't
see this
just
stuff on YouTube. These people,
yeah
they're like the van conversion, and they gut these things, and they
yeah.
right nuts.
We did no such thing. We painted
Crazy.
it like a 70s yellow, and
Yeah.
we put in some new cushions and like called it a
You're
day.
like the Partridge Family bus. You weren't in the tiny house bus.
Yeah,
So funny.
yeah. So we thought we were going to take that business on the road. I mean,
Makes
I
sense,
don't know.
right?
It did. We were like, no, the pop-up shops is where it's at. We'll just go to different locations, across the country. Like, of course, there's going to be, farmers markets, trade shows, all this stuff in other cities and states. So
And
that
where are
was
you
the
going to make
plan.
this stuff? In the van?
No one thought about that.
Oh yeah, no, that's not. That's really
We
funny.
didn't.
It's funny because it sounds like you and your whole family, you're all like right brain entrepreneurs, right? You're creative, you're driven, you can't sit still, you want to do the new thing. But then actually writing it down and creating a business plan and saying, well, wait a second, where are we going to make this stuff? You would know that,
Yeah,
right? If you did it, but you're excited
we
about
did.
everything. That's how life works. Yeah.
Yeah, we were very excited. We did not think about a few different things, a couple different things. Where are we going to make the product? How are
Right.
we going to store the product? Because we had 4 kids and ourselves in an RV. There wasn't a lot of storage. So where are we going to keep this big tent? And I mean, it was just a mess.
How big
And
was
then,
the RV?
oh, it was tiny. It was like 20 something feet. Like it was
Oh, geez.
tiny. It
With
was
the
tiny.
5 of you? 6 of you.
6, 6. And then the last piece was we'd never even stepped foot in an RV before we bought one and decided to do this. Like we didn't know anything about RVing. So
You gotta know where you can drive, where to stop, and how to hook up, right, and how to clean the thing, and how to
we
all
didn't
that
know
stuff.
any of it. Like our parents were like, do you guys want to leave the kids with us? Like maybe you two go on this adventure and you leave the kids here. They'll be fine. Because they didn't think it would last long. They were like, we'll give them a
Yeah, they'll be
month.
back in a week. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How old
Yeah.
were the kids?
The twins were 2, and then we had a 5 and an 8-year-old.
So what'd you do about school? Would you homeschool them on the
Yes.
road?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was, I mean, the whole plan was just the craziest idea. And I couldn't believe 8 years later we were still doing it. I mean, obviously we
Really?
had,
So you were on
yeah,
the road for 8 years doing these things? Well, but it's probably a great way to see the country, and the kid had all kinds of great experiences, even though
yeah,
probably looking back it was nuts, right? But
it
probably,
was nuts. It was
yeah.
nuts when we first got started. But I mean, obviously we figured it out
Yeah,
along
'cause
the
you did it for
way.
8 years, right, of course.
But after the first trip, the business was out. We were like, nope, we're just going to do seasonal jobs. I love to write. I've always wanted to be like an author, living in Seattle, which is so funny we live here now. So anyway, I would just write like magazine articles for like different RV and camping publications. And that's pretty much how we funded it. But it was not with the products.
Wow. How many states did you visit? Do you remember?
We did like 42, maybe
Oh,
42.
almost all. Wow.
Yeah, it was really fun. We
Yeah,
had we had a lot of adventures, and
I'm
that's what we
sure.
were looking for. Um, so that
You're
was fun.
literally like setting up campfires wherever you go, right? I mean, because a lot of it's
Yes.
outside the van. You're sitting, yeah,
Oh my gosh. I used to call my husband, I nicknamed him the campfire caveman because it's like once he was introduced to the campfire, which we really never had a campfire before. There was no need for us to have, we never went
right,
camping. Once he
right.
was introduced to campfires, like he always had to have one going. And I
Yeah.
was like, what?
No,
It's like so
I think I'd be
primal. What is
attracted to
wrong
that.
with you?
It's so primal. Yeah. You want to, you pull into your wherever you're going. You want to get. That's the first thing you want to do, right? That's what
Yes,
civilization has: fire. So you got to get it going.
fire.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So it
something is
separates us
going
from
on with
animals.
you.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Is that funny?
because I mean, he wanted always to have a fire, which was fun because that meant we were always outside, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to cook on the fire, which that was a fun new experience. One time, him and like one of the neighborhood like bachelors, like I don't know, we were camping at this state park, and there was a single guy, and he was just camping, and he just was always looking for like someone to do something with. Well, they team up and they decide they're gonna like make beef jerky like on the campfire. And it took so long. They were out there for hours. It was like an
And how do
all
you do
day
beef
affair.
jerky's like dried meat? Don't you have to like hang it in the tree or something? You can't. That's pretty
It
funny.
was so crazy. They
That's
had
funny.
to get the
But there was
fire
a kitchen
just
also in the
right.
RV. Was there? Was it?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. If it was raining, you wouldn't have any food or couldn't cook. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, that was just so many interesting adventures. Actually, looking back on that, you're taking me
Yeah,
down
it's
memory
one of
lane.
the things I told my wife. Like, I want to get like a Super C RV so we can travel the country. I don't know how I can do my law practice remote, but maybe I could. But every time I get these things in my head, like you said, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't know the first thing about camping. I once went camping when my son was in Boy Scouts,
Mm.
and I had gotten sick, like pneumonia. So we didn't go. And in order to get his badge, we said, well, we'll camp out in the backyard. We didn't even make it the night in the backyard of our house. I mean, forget
Oh
about it.
wow.
So we were going to go on these trips with the Boy Scouts, where they go to some island with the backpacks and they got to take a boat over there because you can't even drive. I was like, I can't do that. I'm going to die in the woods. I grew up in
No,
suburbia New Jersey. So, but you're right. You figure things out. I mean, that's
you
totally,
do, and you have like, it's so weird though, because the camping community, I didn't even realize it was a community. It really is. Like people are
right.
so helpful.
Yeah. There's a whole network of campsites and
Yes,
people. And right nowadays, you can follow them online and connect with all these people.
I
It's totally,
know. It has
yeah.
grown like so much. I remember like when we first, we our first, our first experience, we went to this campsite in, I don't Campbellsville, Kentucky. I remember
Okay.
Campbellsville, Kentucky. Okay, because we were like, we're going to go work for Amazon. Amazon had a program that hired RVers to come and work at their fulfillment centers, right? For the peak season, like the holiday season.
Oh, so you would
So,
come with your RV, so you could live in your RV, and they
yeah,
needed extra workers because they were so busy during the holidays.
yes. It's like
Got
a
it. Okay.
win-win, right?
Yeah.
So we go and we're like all juiced up. I've got the cutest track outfits. My shoes are just so amazing, right? They're like for looks, not for comfort. And then we get into this fulfillment center where
And
I'm
you're
thinking,
running around like a maniac, right?
oh my gosh, I thought we were going to be more like holiday elves. We were warehouse workers, and it wasn't a fulfillment center like what I thought. It was a warehouse, and it was
Yeah.
huge, and my feet hurt. I couldn't even like pick them up. But the craziest part was these people had been used, the people inside of the Amazon warehouses, because Amazon had been doing this for like 3 or so years prior to us coming. They were so used to seeing a certain type of RVer, right? Because you're not going to find, well, in 2013, when we started this,
Yeah.
you'd be hard pressed to find one, a young a young person out there RVing full time, a young like someone who was young with family, and then like a young black couple or a black couple at all. So when
Right.
we showed up, everyone had questions.
And this was like in the
Uh,
Midwest.
no, this was in Ohio. No, this was in Kentucky.
Oh,
So
yeah. Still.
everyone had questions. Why are you guys doing this? Like, what made you live in an RV? And like, why are you here? It was so crazy. We had to answer so many questions, and we didn't even think about when we were like looking online and like researching, like, oh, people totally travel in an RV. We didn't even realize they were all like retired. Like, they were all like
Right. That's the people that do it mostly.
70
Exactly.
plus. So
Yeah.
we
But
just were like,
imagine
oh,
all fan life online on YouTube and everything. They're all young couples. I saw a guy with 8
yes,
kids, and they're living on the road, and they
yeah.
converted a lot
Now it's
hand.
much more like normalized. You see all types of people, all types of conversions, and
Right.
they're all like living this awesome life. So that was cool to see the progression. Um, but it was definitely an interesting welcome, I guess, that we had to the whole thing.
So what got you into, and we're going to take a break in a few minutes, and then we'll talk about what got you into like the virtual summit business, or
I know they don't seem what I've talked
yeah,
about
I
doesn't
don't see
even
a
see
jump
it.
from
You
one.
don't see
Yeah.
it. It's
No.
coming. So
Yeah.
I was working, right? So we were doing these seasonal jobs, and I had like, all these things to say about how to work seasonal jobs so that you could RV. Well,
Right.
then I kind of transitioned into working for one of those magazines that was talking about seasonal jobs for RVers. So they
Oh,
were like,
okay.
oh my God, she's always talking about this. Like, let's hire her. So then I worked remotely for them.
Nice.
And, I kind of just started like growing from there. So I wrote a book, and I published the book on Amazon, and I planned events for that company and brought people together to learn basically, how to RV.
That's what
So
the book was about: how to RV, live on the road, still pay your bills, that type of thing.
the book was about seasonal work for RVers.
Okay.
So
Got
it
it.
was called Live Camp Work. So all three
I
things
like
that you
that.
want to be doing in
Eat, love,
your
pray.
RV. Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Live.
Um, so, we were still traveling,
Okay.
and we were actually coming back. We were traveling from LA to Seattle. We're on a
Okay.
road trip. The kids wanted to see this roadside attraction that kind of looks like this Disney show called Gravity Falls. But
Okay.
it's in the redwoods. So you can't just go up I-5. You got to dip out and go on the coast and go through the
Okay.
redwoods, which, adds a few hours of travel. So we said, sure, we'll do it. We're on the road trip. This is what it's all about. So we make this decision to, add all these hours extra to the trip. And I took a spontaneous work meeting during this trip and right before we got to the Avenue of the Giants when we were about to lose service. And I just was like, oh, let me take this call because it might be something important. I took it, and I was fired in the car on the
What?
road trip. I was fired
That's what they
from,
were having the call with you about, to fire you?
yes, yes,
This was the magazine that had you writing for them?
yes. So I was
So
like,
you weren't paid like on freelance basis. You were a salaried person.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I moved up from like, freelance writer to director of operations for that company. So I was
Got it.
fired from a for real job making for real money in the car on a Zoom call with the whole family.
What
Right
year was
before
this?
this was 2018, I believe.
So it was before pandemic.
Yeah. Hmm.
I didn't even know what Zoom was in 2008. No idea.
Still used it slightly.
Yeah. So you were
So
one of the first remote workers,
I
you
think
know?
there was plenty of people out there using it prior to that. It just wasn't as popular, basically.
Right.
Um,
But why
but
did they
yeah,
let you go? Because they couldn't afford you anymore, or they?
listen, that's a whole nother story. You know what? What it basically boils down to was like a conflict of interest. You like I'm writing about this lifestyle and you bring me in and you want me to write about the lifestyle for you, but you expect me to not have this business that I've built up over here, or this hobby that I've built up
Got
over
it.
here,
Right.
and that wasn't our agreement. So
I
they
see.
were kind of put off by the fact that I just published a book, and I was like, wait, what? Like,
Really?
this is why you hired me? Like, yes,
Right.
it was such like a slap in the face. So
Okay.
I had all this time to think about what exactly I was going to do, with my life. That was my words. What am I going to do with my life? Jesus, like, what's happening right
Well,
now?
you're young now, so it's not like
I
this is
know, but
like
it was like such a, ugh, it was just a slap in the face. And it was just
it always is
so,
hard. It always is hard.
yes, that's very difficult. And then I had all these like quiet time hours now because I'm like, I don't want to talk.
Right.
Like, what's
Now,
happening?
was your husband doing something? He was working too?
Yeah, he was basically managing what I was building over here. So he was doing that, and he was also still doing some of the seasonal work. Um, so it just, we had to figure it out. So I had all this time to do it. And I said, geez, how am I going to monetize this audience? Because I had built up a pretty good size audience over here. It wasn't anything like huge or anything, but it
No,
was
but it's
maybe,
some people.
yeah, like 500 to maybe 1,000 people over here.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, how can I, monetize, energize, and like turn my hobby
Yeah.
into an actual business? And I just told myself, I'm going to plan a virtual event that answers the question that I needed the answer to, number one. And number two, that I had seen so many people posting in Facebook about. And that question was, how do you guys afford this lifestyle? Like, that's the question everyone was
And that
asking
was
at the
going to be the
time.
theme of the first virtual
Hmm.
event. All right. So
Yeah.
let me stop you there because this is perfect time. We're going to hear the whole thing. We're going to play some commercials. People pay me a
Okay.
little bit of money to keep this thing going. And then we'll get into virtual events and how it started. So now it makes sense. I see the
Okay.
jump. All right. So I'm going to play this and then we'll get back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Maybe you're looking to get into podcasting, or you just want to market your business. Maybe you want to do it for enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created especially for our listeners. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. All right, Sharee. So we were right at the perfect time where you were telling me living this crazy life. Although I got to say, it sounds fun, especially for kids, like living on the road and everything. But then you lost your job, but you are resourceful. I mean, I don't mean that as a compliment. It is a compliment. You are resourceful. Things don't, wait, my son is calling me. Okay. Things don't really get you down. I mean, you're like, well, let's figure it out.
Exactly.
And, yeah. So
I would say that
all
about
right, so let's
myself.
talk about this. So you knew that other people had done these virtual summits, right? So that's where the idea came from?
I had participated in 2 virtual summits.
Okay.
One was, I can't even remember what the theme of it was. I think it was entrepreneurship or
Okay.
nomadism. Yeah. And then the other one was a virtual summit, and it was called Full-Time Freedom Week. And it was about how to get on the road and live like in an RV. But it wasn't about working, and it wasn't about money, and not everyone wants to ask that question, you know?
Right.
So this was more like, how do you work the RV, water tanks, or what to do with the
Got it.
sewage? Where should you park? It was like the fluffy stuff that you
Yeah.
do need to know. But what I saw and what I needed the information about was, how the heck is everyone funding this big
Yeah.
adventure?
How do you pay your bills?
Yeah, because back then, like you said, remote jobs were like these gems that were like hidden.
Right.
And it wasn't like everyone and anyone was hiring for remote workers. So I was like, oh, this this might be coming to an end shortly, unless we want to go back to doing seasonal stuff. And that could have been an option, but I was just like, I feel like this is the moment, because I had seen people just in random Facebook groups, they were wanting to know how people were able to live this lifestyle. What do you do for work? How do you pay for this trip? Like,
Right.
what does your husband do? Those were the
Right.
questions
What are the
that
real
people were
answers?
asking. Yeah, what are these real answers? And what I saw was people trying to answer it, like trying to be helpful, as some people tend to do on Facebook. Um, but it was a short answer. It was like
Yeah.
1 to 2 sentences, if that, and they weren't well thought out. And I'm like, I really need more like insight about this
Right.
answer. This isn't the right medium. This isn't the right channel for you to be like, asking this question and receiving the answer. So I said, what if I could curate all this information? What if I could curate like 101 answers to the question, how do you make money in RV? And I just started from there. And I just, anyone that I saw online that was RVing, anyone that I had reached out to, worked with in the past, like the people that were, doing those RV events that I had already participated in, I reached out to them, some of their speakers, like, guys, I just need you to sit with me for an interview and answer the question, how do you make money in RV? And I just took it from there.
Got it. So that allows you to create content for the summit, because what you're really
Yeah.
selling is information, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not going to have like a room with booths where people can buy. I guess you
Yeah.
could do that virtually, but yeah. And
You
that's how they
could.
make their money, right? You get the attendees come to listen, get the information, and then hopefully you get sponsors and people that want to buy tables and show their
Yeah.
stuff, right? But virtual's a little different, right? Or is it the same?
Well, it can be. It
Okay.
can be a little of the same. So for this one, I just listen. I had never planned a virtual event.
Yeah.
Never planned a virtual summit. I didn't really have a whole ton of resources, because I was like, well, I'm holding on to every dollar that I have, because I'm not going to, put my family into debt, or, shorten our adventure trying to do this event, because what if it doesn't work? So
Right.
I went very lean, and I was like, okay, everything's going to be pre-recorded. I'm not buying, Zoom webinars so that I could be out here, doing these live classes or anything like that. I did purchase a virtual summit platform called Hey Summit, which I love. I've used them for like 13 out of like 15 events so far. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to,
Host the event, like the people attend through that site.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So I hosted my videos. I needed some place to host the video. So I was very lean. I was already hosting videos on Vimeo. I just kind of upped my plan a little bit
Okay.
and, got that extra storage. So I hosted the videos on Vimeo, and then everything linked inside of the Hey Summit platform to create a website.
Okay.
So, you would have speaker profiles. I'm talking to this speaker about this topic, and then their topic would, present itself as a talk, and we would link the video. And then at a certain day and time, that video would go live. So I did it as a 5-day event. So Monday through Friday. And then I did hourly sessions. So from 8 a.m. to maybe 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, every
Hmm.
hour on the hour, there was a new session going live, but it was actually pre-recorded. So it was going live,
Right. It
airing.
wasn't on demand. You had to go into the room, so to speak, and watch it.
Correct. If you wanted to attend for free, because I love to do things for free, but I realize, I'm an entrepreneur and my goal here is to make money. So I always have a free ticket, but I always have a paid upgrade. So you could attend the entire thing for free
Okay.
if you
Do you
wanted
still
to
do that
attend.
where the base program is free and then they can
Yes.
upgrade, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah. So they could just register. The only thing it cost you was your email address and your name and 2 seconds to pop it in. And you got
Right.
access to the full event, and you just attend whatever you want when you can make it. Well, I allowed people to watch presentations for 24 hours for free. So, if something aired at 8, then you had until 8 a.m. the next morning to watch it. And it just went like that
Okay.
the whole day. If you wanted extended access, plus I think I had some note sheets and an event binder with some information and things like that in it, then it was an upgrade. And I sold the upgraded ticket at different levels. Did you want it for a month, a year, or a lifetime? Which the
Got it.
lifetime was definitely a misstep, because now I always have to keep that content
Right.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't think about it. You'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
great. If they'll like me, I don't care. But then you got to deal with it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So I never do the lifetime anymore, but I do the year plan, because I think it gives people enough time to pick it up and put it down and then pick it back up as many
And do
times
a
as
lot
you
of
want.
people upgrade? I mean,
Yeah, I think you'll see for my events, I see between 15 and 18.5% of the people who register upgrade to one of those paid tickets. So if you have thousands of people registering for these events, then you can make a substantial amount of money directly from ticket sales. You
right.
also have
Now,
other
you
opportunities.
said you had 50, 500 to 1,000 followers, something like that. So that was your initial mailing list, right?
hmm
And then it grew from there. As people registered, you obviously captured their email address, and then
Yeah.
grew the
So
list
for
from
the
there.
first event, we had, I don't know the exact number, but we had over 5,000 people register for that event.
Really?
It was one of my greatest ideas. To do that event was one of my greatest ideas. It
And you
was
only had a
incredible.
list of 500 to 1,000, and that grew to 5,000 attendees.
Yes. Yeah. Because all of the sponsors and I had sponsors for the event as well.
Oh, how'd
Some
you
of
get those?
those, I just reached out. I'm not one of those people who's shy about reaching out for,
Yeah, I know. I
pitching
got that.
someone. If I have an
Right.
idea, hands down, I think it's an amazing idea and I want to share it with you and I want you to be part of it, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
So I just reached out.
Being
So
confident and convincing people is a skill.
right,
Big time.
just be confident in what you
Right.
know that you can produce. I knew, even if I had never planned one of these before, I was very confident that I could pull it off without the people on the outside knowing how chaotic I felt and what it looked like for myself and my family watching me. You didn't need to see that part. You were just going to see an amazing event
Yeah,
by
no,
any
they
means
wouldn't know all the
necessary.
chaos behind the scenes. You're trying to figure it out. They just know that the videos went up, the website was there, they watched the stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, of
Exactly.
course.
And
So did
I
you make
tell
money
this
on your
to,
first event? Did you make money in your first event?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. We made over $10,000 by day one.
Wow.
Yeah. And by day two, because everything was pre-recorded, and I mean, the only thing I really had to I made it so easy on myself, right? By doing everything pre-recorded and just taking care of day one. I had a ton of emails. So I had to, go through all the support emails, because really wasn't that many things like this in the RV space. There had only been two previous events, and this one was so large and
Right.
stately that people were like, oh, and I did things differently, so there were some questions. So I had to answer all these questions. But by day 2, I mean, I clearly did something right because I took off and I went on a field trip with like 4 other RV families and like, I think it was like 17 children, 6
In
parents.
person?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just handled it. I just handled it from my phone as we were touring, downtown Seattle and, having fun with the kids. Cause I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to miss out on this opportunity to take my kids out with all these amazing people and experience downtown because I've got business stuff going on. Like, this is why I want to do it. And I was like, if I'm in a position where everything's running smoothly and all I need is my cell phone, then this is amazing. Like, this is the life that I want to create.
Cool
So
to say behind a desk working a job.
exactly.
Right.
I said, no, I can do it from the cell phone. And I didn't even really need to do much. I think there was just a few more emails that came in. And, as the kids were, over, at the playground or as we were eating lunch, I would just, boop, 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 respond to those little emails, and it went great. So I reran that event one other time, and we did end up increasing that. So we got 6,000 people the next time. And then I went on to produce like over a dozen after that.
For yourself?
For myself, yep. I actually had a couple people that I actually produced their events for.
Okay.
I did one event. This one I had a couple partners on. The first time we ran it, I had 2 partners. And we ran an event called the RV Family Summit because just like people want to know how you afford it, they want to know how in the world you can do it with kids.
Right.
How do you first get everyone on board? How do you pack all these kids into an RV? And how are you not like driving yourself crazy? There's a lot of things that go into that. So we said, let's break that down and do an event just for families. So that went over amazingly. Like, that was incredible. And then the second year, one partner, she went and did like this incredible trip. Like, she spent like 5 months, I think, in Europe, like backpacking with all 4 of her children, right? So she did not do the event. It was just me and one other partner. And instead of like, just rerunning what we had or, scaling things back, we brought on like a big sponsor, shout out to Camp Spot. And we were able to host like an event that was 3 times bigger than what we had just hosted, because with their sponsorship, we were able to have our main event, which was 100% virtual. Anyone across the country could attend. We also chose 3 of their campgrounds, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and one in Texas. So 3 different time zones. And we hosted in-person events at the same exact time at all 3 of those campgrounds.
You were each in a different location?
No, we didn't even go to any of those. We had a host for each one of those events.
Really?
Yeah, we never left home. Like, no.
See, I know you're going to tell me I'm wrong. So I know I'm wrong when I say this. So I'm going to say it anyway. It seems that you were like in a niche, right? That really worked for this type of stuff, because you have people who are on the road, right? They're not going to like go to the local gymnasium and watch you, right? Because they're traveling and they want to do it from the road.
Mm-hmm.
And and niching down obviously works, right? People say, oh, I want to do business with everybody. Well, that doesn't help you. You were very specific. You had a very narrow marketplace, but it was big enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you had this audience of people, and you knew that these people had the same problems that you had. Like, how do you do this? And what do you do? So what I'm curious is, have you done this for other industries, and what industries you think would do well with virtual summits for their business?
Well, first, before I answer that, I will say, yes, I had an initial niche of RVers.
Right.
And I planned that first event about how to make money. Well, I planned an event called the Van Life Virtual Summit for people who, wanted to live in a van and they had, specific concerns. That was another, sub niche that I, isolated inside of the bigger
van
picture.
life is even more nichey than RVs, right? These people
100%.
literally live in vans, right? I know.
100%.
It's like a whole life.
Then we did the family one. And then
Okay.
we also did one that was strictly about, it was called Ready to Renovate. It was strictly about renovating RVs. So inside of that niche that I had, the RV industry, or RVers, full-time RVers, there were other subsets in there that I could, isolate and create content for. And by doing
Yeah.
that, it grew, because my website, Live Camp Work, didn't talk specifically to each one of those groups. It may have had articles for each one of those groups, but it was like,
Right.
it was more general. So
Right.
by creating each one of those events, it grew our community on Live Camp Work to over 20,000 people. So by doing that, I was actually able to sell the whole thing earlier this year as one.
You sold the whole business?
I sold Live Camp Work. I sold the courses. I sold the books.
What are they buying? They're buying the materials and they're buying the lists of people and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So we did an asset purchase. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So, because I imagine, like, if you help me do a summit for the podcast for entrepreneurs, it would be too broad. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be something very specific and maybe it can be done for specific industries. Like, we're doing this for this group, but that's how I see it working, right?
I think you have to start with the goal in mind. Like, for each of those that I did, there was a specific goal, like helping someone do what? Like,
Right.
what are you saying? And are you saying an entrepreneur needs to have a podcast to grow? Are you saying entrepreneurs with podcasts need to be doing XYZ, or they struggle with XYZ? You have to really identify what their problem is and what they're struggling with. And then the event should curate the answer for them. So you're always trying to get from point A to point B for them.
Right. So, good piece of advice. If somebody's thinking about doing something like this, they should first identify what the problem they're solving for people. Not just like sharing information isn't enough. Because you won't get enough of a following. You had hot topics that people are like, I have to know that. I want to know how to fix my van up. I want to know how in the world you don't drive yourself crazy with your kids, or how do you pay your bills on? I mean, those are 3 huge hot button issues for RVers.
But I do think virtual summits, virtual events, whatever you're going to call it, a conference, whatever, I think they can work in any niche. I think you just have to start with the right topic in mind, and your topic has to be focused.
So what other industries have you helped with your business? Or is that kind of on the horizon, like new?
Yeah, so this is kind of open now. So, I've kind of doubled down into planning virtual summits, and over on the Summit Host, we have a signature event, which has come to be, and it's called Teach Me How to Summit. So it's all about teaching people how to, what I say is summit and scale. Like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to scale your business and you want that full funnel model that's not like relying on like slow growth of like, oh, create a freebie, wait for 2 people to opt into your freebie, nurture them, sell them something down the road. If you're not trying to go that route, that's where Teach Me How to Summit comes in. That's where a virtual summit comes in. Because
the other route's like a very slow funnel.
It's slow.
Right.
It's slow. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs like
get frustrated,
step out of the game. Yeah.
Right.
Or just quit and go back. Or start something different, because I was just telling my daughter this the other day. We went to the plant store and she showed me this beautiful begonia. She has to have this beautiful begonia. So we drive over there to get it, and we get there and it's like this big. And I was like, this is not the picture you showed me. And she said, oh, Mom, it takes a while. It takes years to get to that level. And I was like, I do not want to sit around for years waiting on this plant to grow. Like, I like instant results. Please don't show me the end result if we're going to be starting from this. Like, show me this.
A year and a half from now, and I got to watch this thing grow.
Absolutely not. So I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. You set out with like this idea, this amazing idea, right? You had it. It's great. And you start to build it, listening to all the gurus and all this expert advice. But they're showing you like they're today when they've been in business for like 10 years, and you're starting out day one, and you're expecting to see those results.
Right.
That path is so long. I really don't have time for that. So anything that I do, I will launch with a virtual summit first, because it accelerates it. Like, who are you talking to if you don't have an audience? Grow your audience with the virtual summit. If you have nothing to launch after your virtual summit, that's totally fine. I've done tons of events, I think a dozen, that did not have a signature offer to launch on the back end. The event was the big deal because I was just trying to grow my audience. I wanted thousands of people to talk to as opposed to hundreds. And I
Right.
wanted them to know who I was, be super engaged, really be into the content that I was going to be producing moving forward. And it was the perfect solution for that.
Very good. Well, you have me intrigued, and I'm sure you have a lot of the listeners intrigued about how they can use this tool in their business and learn about it. So how do they interact with you, learn about you? I know there's the summithost.com, right, which has tons of
Yes.
information on it. And what are you also on LinkedIn and the other, you're on all the social
I'm
media
so
platforms?
bad. I'm so bad with social media. Don't look me up. Just go to the summithost.com and send
Okay,
me
so
an email.
the only link
Respond
we'll
to my
put in
email.
the show notes will be the summithost.com. And I saw you have all kinds of stuff on there. You have resources, you have tools that you use. I mean, you're very
hmm
open about it. A lot of people are like, why would I put that? Then they'll do it on their own. They don't. People don't do it.
Well, that's the thing. We talked a little bit about this before we started recording. It can be a daunting task to look at this whole event.
Yeah,
And it doesn't really matter how many blogs I share with people and encourage you and inspire you to do the thing.
right.
If
You're not
you
putting
are
yourself out of business. No.
if you're not set on the idea
Yeah,
and you don't have that game plan to move forward, then you're just not going to do it. So I honestly love putting out free content because I want to continuously inspire people to do it. But you have to take the next step. Like I can tell
right.
you how to
Of
get
course.
started, but you have to take the next step.
Right.
So
And it just builds your reputation as an expert. It just,
right.
you know, right. It just helps and supports you anyway. So what does it matter?
And I can't
All right.
talk to my, family about it. They're done hearing about it. So I got to tell somebody.
All right. So I think I gotta think about this whole thing and talk to you about it and see if a virtual summit makes sense to support the podcast and support the business advising I do. And, maybe I
Okay.
can expand that audience. So we will definitely connect outside of this.
Do you want me to
And
give you the first 5 steps on how to host a
sure,
virtual
let's
summit?
do that. Can we do that on the show?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to take some notes, and other people listening, they can pull their car over. Don't do this while you're driving.
Don't
All
do
right,
it.
go ahead.
Okay. So step number 1, we talked about this just a little bit. It's
Yeah,
choosing your summit topic, right? This
right.
needs
Very
to be,
important.
this is huge. This is
Right,
huge. Okay. You need to know what it is you're going to be talking about for this event and what the big transformation is for the person you're hosting it for. So teach me how to summit. Our goal is to teach you how to plan a virtual summit. Get ready to summit and scale. Like we want
okay,
you to plan a virtual summit to skip all that slow growth stuff. That's our goal. Okay.
okay.
Number 2, you're going to want to identify your audience. Again, very important with these two because everything is going to keep coming back to these two things. Like, who are you
Right,
doing it for? Is it for virtual entrepreneurs? Is it for any type of small business? Is it just for podcasters? Is it
right,
for, nonfiction authors? Whoever it is, just know who that is so you can speak directly to them. Sometimes for people who have been in business a while, you're going to have a general audience that you already know about. You could use that audience or you could niche down like I talked about with, little subsets of it and talk more
okay,
directly to them. Okay. Number 3, you're going to take that big theme and you're going to break it down into your topic sessions. So if I go with the road trip analogy, like where
right.
we start is day 1. And the final day of your summit is going to be our end destination, like Disney World. And every stop along the way is going to be one of your sessions that you're going to need a speaker to present on.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
how you create your content, right?
Yeah, that's where you're going to be having people learn it. Okay. Because you don't want to be out there producing all of this yourself. Like that's too
Right, of
much.
course not.
You can do a couple sessions, but you want each topic to teach something that is going to get them from point A to point B. Okay. Then once you have those topics, I said you need a speaker. This is where we're going to have to create a big list of people who can deliver these topics. You can match them up directly, like, topic A goes to this person, topic B goes to this person, or you can just create a giant list of people who talk about these topics and kind of match them up later. But you
Yeah, I have
need
a ton of
speakers.
people on the podcast. I have 300
Oh,
interviews. I have people
yes.
all
So you just match them up and say this person
right.
can do this, 1, 2, 3, and you'll start to see a very clear picture of your event at this point. It's coming all together. And then last, you're gonna have to choose a date. Like you want to choose something that's 90 to 120 days in the future. And you want to make sure there are not like conflicts with that date, personal or business.
Right.
Also, exactly. Also, I would try to avoid, especially if this is your first one, if other events around your topic have been planned around that same time, because it just makes promo and getting people in the door a little bit more challenging.
To do a search and see what other things are kind of
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and I think maybe we'll clean this up a little bit and put it in the show notes. And for people listening, write it down, and that's where you get started. But that's just getting you started. Like that's just the skeleton of
That
the
is the
event. There's
skeleton.
obviously a lot of details that go into making this thing work, right?
There is. There is. I do have a summit planner that I can give to everyone. I can give you a
Okay.
coupon
Free
code.
gift.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
can give you a coupon code. I like to call it 70 pages of goodness. Oh, you are so in luck. Look, I just
Okay.
published it on Amazon. This is the proof that just came out.
The virtual summit planner on Amazon.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a copy of it, and
Okay, great.
it will, walk you through all the goodies inside. You can get the PDF version on my website. So I'll create that for you guys. Yeah, because then
Great.
you'll be able to see, what's going to go in your free ticket, what's going to go in the paid ticket. Like it'll just walk you through everything, and then you'll have a much better idea on if you even want to do it moving forward.
Super. I love free gifts for the listeners. That's always awesome.
Okay, awesome. This was fun.
All right, Sharee, I can't thank you enough. And stick around a little bit. This is, it's phenomenal because people have asked me about things like this in the past. I've seen one person do a virtual summit. I don't know how they put it together, but it's just a lot for people. And I think it's really valuable for people who are trying to do things online, who want to be mobile, and even if they're not mobile, it's the kind of thing that they can start to expand their marketplace and, and through a virtual summit. So I can't
100%.
thank you enough. Let's play the closing credits and stick around.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.